second. I invited Shauna to this call so she can kind of just walk us through the process of what is known as a resource form. You know, we don't just get up and do events at the church because we feel like doing it or just kind of ad hoc, plan stuff. No, we actually have to make sure that we go through the proper administrative processes. And so Shoshana she is so gracious and has been so good at what she does for the last 10 plus years or so at Harvest. And I think, this process just makes her work easier so that she can better assist us and to make things happen. So I'm going to share my screen. And Shauna, are you there? Can you hear me?
I am here. Good evening, everybody. Can you all hear me well? I'm in my car.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, let me see if I can turn my volume up a little bit as well. Okay, so good evening, everybody. The document that Pastor Ronnie has pulled up is called the resource form, and we use this specifically for ministry events and church-wide events. See if I can get some place where my car is gonna make a little less noise. Before I go into like going and detailing all of the different things in the form, I just want to explain why we do what we do a little bit. So first, I was at Pastor Marnie. It has not been 10 plus years, but I appreciate you trying to age me like that. I'm gonna let you have that one.
8 years. 8 years. I'll give you 8.
It hasn't even been 8, but I'm gonna move on. You trying to age me? You trying to age me? No, that's not when I came, but it's okay. So the main reason that we have the resource form is not to be restrictive necessarily. It's to help us better serve you, honestly. It's to help us make sure, first of all, that we have an understanding of what it is that you need from us, whether it's resources or support services. Support services are things like catering, if you need sound technicians, if you need parking attendants for something that you're happening. Resources is not just the tables and the chairs, but it's also the rooms if you need things printed, if you need access to a projector and a screen that's not necessarily stationed in a particular room. Like all of those things we need to know. Another reason why we do it is because we actually have 3 or 4 different calendars that we have to juggle because the facility is so busy and we have so many different ministries who are also wanting to have events, anything from classes to fellowships. Everybody wants to be able to do something on top of the events that Bishop wants to make sure that we do every year. We have the school calendar, we have people who rent, we have a lot of things going on in the building. Now we have the hub, and we want to make sure that it's working for everybody, that we don't have any conflicts. And also, we do it to make sure that we are not tiring out our staff and we're not tiring out our volunteers by being able to stay on top of everything that's going on. And the main reason we do it is because we want to make sure that we are being purposeful in the things that we do. We don't want to just have events for the sake of having events. We want to make sure that these events are helping us to meet the mission and the values of the church, that we are making as many disciples as we can for Christ in our generation, that we are trying to go about creating that world where no one lives or dies without Christ. So ultimately, that's what should be driving us when we decide that we want to have events, period. Whether they're on campus or they're not on campus, we really need to be using our time efficiently. That's something that we need to strive a little harder to do. So that's why the form is created the way that it's created, and it has the requirements that we're going to go over right now, because we want to make sure that we are meeting those very, very important goals. So if you look at it, I'm sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, my apologies. So if you look at the first page that you see of the form, it's asking you for your ministry, and well, I'm sorry, not your ministry, but your email address. So here, Pastor Varney has his email address, and that's fine. But if you prefer to use the email address of the ministry head versus the ministry leader who's submitting the form, please also please also add your email to that, because I want to make sure that when I'm responding to this, that I'm responding to everybody who needs to be a part of it. Okay, so the next part of it is just about the policies and procedures of what needs to be done in order to submit this form. I'm not going to read the entire thing. It's a lot, and again, I don't want to take up all of your time, but I do advise you to go over it on your own time, or at least when you are submitting a resource form, please take the time out to read everything. That way, if you have any questions, you can give me a call or send me an email before you go through the process of sending it. As you can see, I'll go through the procedures, at least the ones that are numbered. So you want to complete the resource form in its entirety. Okay, these 4 criteria here: the evangelism, discipleship, fellowship, and your goals. These are prerequisites that you cannot get away from. The ministry heads, which is our pastoral leadership, they are the ones who have determined what these are, the goals that your event needs to meet. They've determined that's what they are. Okay, so the questions, who is the event for? Who's the target audience? Why should people come to this? Donations and first-time business, salvation, commitment to discipleship. These are all questions that are coming from your ministry head, from the pastor who is over your ministry. So if you can't answer these questions, then you really need to go back and reevaluate whether or not this is an event that you should even be trying to plan. Because if it's not meeting these goals, if you're not able to answer these questions, then are you making as many disciples as you can in your lifetime? Are you making an effort to create a world where no one lives or dies without Christ? If your event isn't lining up with that, then you should probably go back and say maybe we need to talk about it again and find out how we can align ourselves with these missions and with the mission and the vision. The next thing you want to do is create a plan. Okay, so what I've done, I've taken the time to create an actual planning checklist as well as a timeline that you can go about using to make sure that you are meeting all of the crossing the I's and dotting the I's and crossing the T's when it comes to planning the event. If you all don't have it, I can resend it to Pastor Varney, or Pastor Varney can give me your individual email addresses and I will send it to the appropriate people to help you plan. Now, what we suggest is that you give yourselves plenty of time to plan, anywhere from 4 to 6 months to start planning an event. So that you can make sure that you are not only meeting the criteria for your event, but not stressing yourself out trying to raise money for it, trying to get help for it, trying to make purchases for it. It's just easier for you, and it's easier for us when we're going about managing all these different schedules. You want to, where's number 3? You want to go to scheduling. That way, if it's not already on the calendar, like what we're seeing right now, because of some transitions in certain ministries, they weren't able to submit these resource forms last year when they were due. These forms were due in December of 2021. So I'm trying to be lenient and allow some things to still be submitted, because I understand, again, transitions in leadership and other things. But moving forward, when we have the study halls in the fall and you're told this is the deadline to submit your events, make sure those events are submitted at those deadlines. So what I'm suggesting is in June, start having the conversations about what you want to be doing in 2023. And by August, September, actively start planning towards the first quarter of January. The next thing is submit your media request. That you'll have to go online to the church website, or usually when I send this resource form to everybody, I also send a link to the communications request so you don't have to look for it. And those requests go directly to media, and that's for so they can help you with promotions. If you need to create a video, they're there to help you. All the information that you give them helps them to market this event for you in the emails, on the website, on Facebook. That way you don't have to feel like you're doing it alone. We are here to help and support you have excellent events. If you need any types of requests like parking, security, catering, make sure that you check those things off on this form, and then I'll be contacting you just to make sure we have a conversation about what it is that you need and if you actually have a budget for the things you're asking for. Floor plan, we can be a little flexible with the floor plan because I know that you guys sometimes have events that don't actually require that, but in the event that you do, just check it off. Tell me how many tables, chairs, all the other things, and if it needs to be more in depth, just say, hey, I want to call you. I'll send you a separate email. That's cool. We're always going to have a follow-up meeting before the event just to make sure, again, that we dotted the I's and crossed the T's. And in the event that we get closer to your event and it still feels like you're 50% or less away from where you need to be, I love you. I promise Auntie Shauna loves you. But with that same love, I'm going to tell you, so guess what? We're going to postpone your event until you're ready. And even if that means you're going to be ready in 2023 or 2024, then that's when we're going to do that. Because we have to get out of the habit of killing ourselves to make something happen that maybe doesn't necessarily have to happen. I've learned that when the Holy Spirit says, this is what I need to be done, he makes all provision for it to get done. We don't have to be running around killing ourselves to make it work. Like Pastor V was saying, you would be surprised how you can just rest in it while it's happening because he's right there. He's doing the work. He's doing the work. He's doing the work through you. He's doing the work for you. Okay, and so lastly, we want to always make sure we have an after action review so we can talk about how the event went, what things could be done better, what things can maybe be done not at all, how we can maybe even revamp it or make it bigger because it was so successful. So you want to always make sure you have that, even if for whatever reason I'm not available for it, have it amongst yourselves as your team. And you can send me that feedback and we can go over, I can go over it later with the ministry leader and with the ministry head. But we want to always be able to talk about how things went because the goal is to get better, to keep improving. Alrighty, so I'm going to skip this part, Pastor V, and we're going to go straight down to the form. Go to the next page. All right, so this part right here, it might seem something really, really simple, but a lot of people make this mistake. So requested by is the ministry leader. Please don't give me the pastor's name, give me the ministry leader's name. So I will, again, always know who it is, who's the direct point of contact. Approved by, that's the ministry head, that's your pastor, that's the one who you have actually had a conversation with, you have actually gotten permission from to have this event, and you have actually gone through it before you come to me to make sure that you have met all the requirements, you've met those 4 goals, and you've been able to answer those questions about your event. Okay, so the next one is another one where people get a little confused. Date requested is not the date that you are filling out the form. Date requested is the date that you want to have your event. So please keep that in mind because I get that one a lot. People say the date requested is the day they're filling out. Well, like, we want to have an event today. I can't help you. Okay. The guest count. Oh, I need to fix that because somebody typed in there where they weren't supposed to. But the guest count is, of course, how many people you're expecting to come, especially for an in-person event. That's very, really, really crucial right now, not only because of space, but because of COVID. We want to make sure that we are able to give you a place where it can be aired out, where we can be spaced out, where we can social distance and keep everybody safe. Okay, so the theme and the purpose, again, those are things that you will work out with your ministry head. Who is this event for? That you work that out with your ministry head. Why should people come to this event? That's a part of those questions we talked about before, where you have these in-depth conversations with your ministry head to be able to answer these questions. The next part, what numerical, evangelical, disciple-making goals, we already went over that. Again, have those in-depth conversations with your ministry head. the buck doesn't stop with your ministry head, it starts with them. So please always, always go over this form with them to make sure that you are following the criteria before you submit this. Okay, let's keep going up. Pastor V. Okay, so these are the resources that we talked about before. Catering, dining supplies, meeting supplies, stationery, if you're bringing in a guest speaker, and if you need to get accommodations for your guest speaker, and if there's any other miscellaneous items that you need, these resources are, of course, a part of the budget. And then we would have to establish whose budget. Is the church paying for this, or is your individual ministry paying for that? You have to be able to, again, these are conversations that you have with your ministry head to narrow down this information. A lot of times our ministries, they have their own individual budget. And if you have your own budget, a lot of the time, depending on what the event is, the church is expecting for you to pay for these things out of your own ministry's budget. Now, let's say the young adult ministry wants to have a conference, and then they want to bring young adults from other harvest churches, kind of like a mini harvest fest. That's when you would be able to come back and we would be able to negotiate and get assistance from the church. But anything smaller, they're looking to you to be able to find ways to fundraise and have a budget for what it is that you want to do. Okay, let's go up. Okay, so please make sure you put the appropriate ministry. If you don't see your ministry here that's listed here, you can always write it in other. We have, the church is growing, we have different ministries, but unfortunately we don't have space for everybody. So if you don't see your ministry here, which you should, but if you don't see it here, just always check off other and type that information in. Okay, please go up. We've talked about the questions already, so let's go to the next page. Oh, just type anything. Oh, see, I see. Okay, so you're looking at a blank one. It's not going to let you go very far without putting something in. Just put, yeah, just put. Just put anything. There we go. Everybody, that's your target. There we go. Everybody. Yep. Yeah, so any place where you don't see an asterisk, you should be able to skip it. It's just the ones that have the red asterisk next to it you have to fill out. So you should be good. Let's try now. Yeah. Make up a date. Wait, 005 set in the past. We're going back to the past. No problem. What? No. 10 a.m. Is that what you had? Okay. This thing don't like you, Pastor Vernon. Invalid time. It's saying the time. Try 0 or something. Try putting zeros. See what instead of 10:13, try 10 a.m. Like just 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. or whatever. It's, yeah, time, not date, time. Yeah, time. 00. Yeah. Okay, I'm confused. I don't know why it's doing that.
I'm not sure either. And it took me back to the beginning.
That's not okay. Skip all that. Mm-hmm. Put 05, put 2023, and it's already like, because it's tracking the fact that it's 7 p.m. and you want to have something at 10 a.m. today. Like, maybe that's what it was. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There you go. That's what it was. Okay. So now we have where you want to have things. I think we all know the different spaces, but in case you didn't, here they are. Covenant Hall, that is the room where you guys have church. Hall of Nations is the lobby where the cafe is. The third floor reception area is where you guys have had some meetings. It's that open area right off the elevator. Third floor conference room is room 308, which is right also on the third floor, right out off of the open area on the third floor. The second floor conference room is there's a conference table and chairs in the area where in the room where the pastor sits, but it's a conference room. And a classroom, you can use any classrooms on the second and third floor. We try to avoid using classrooms on the lower school level. You have the gymnasium / auditorium / sanctuary, which we all know what that is. The soccer and the baseball fields, and the kitchen, which is pretty much restricted. So act like you didn't see that. You all know about the furniture that we have, the chairs, the tables, the different sizes, but podiums, microphones, portable projectors, pipe and drape, and instruments. Anytime that you need those, please, please, please make sure that you request those. Because especially on days like Saturday, sometimes we have multiple events going on simultaneously. So if there's something that you need, we want to make sure that you have it. So make sure that you check it off. Because if you don't, and then somebody else who's having an event on the same day requests it, we have to give it to whoever requested it first. So always make sure to include exactly what it is. The amount of time for setup, Pastor B will almost never be 8 hours, but I love your optimism. But you give us an idea of how much time you think you'll need, and we can negotiate that to a number that's actually feasible. Okay. Oh, is that me? Okay. The support services, we talked about those earlier. Right now, childcare is not something that we can offer, but for an event that you may be doing, but sound, projection, music, decoration, parking, security, catering, all these other things are definitely support services that we can offer and are willing to help you with when you need them. Just make sure you request them. And lastly, explain the need of the previous selection. So they're asking you, why do you need a sound tech, or why do you need childcare? We need to know why, because if there's an alternate that we can use that is maybe more affordable, or if we find out that we can't actually provide these services, we're going to have to go to an outside company to get them. We need to know this information so we can make sure that we are making informed decisions. Okay, scroll up, my friend. Okay, and the last thing that he said, the last thing that you're going to need to do is click the submit button, and it comes directly to me. And once I receive it, I go through it. If I have any questions, then I respond to you directly to whoever's email is on this form is the one who's going to receive confirmation that I've received your request. And if I have any follow-up questions, that person only is going to be the one to receive those follow-up questions, which is why it's really, really important to not just give me Pastor Ronnie's email address and not your own. Make sure that you give me your information so that we can start our own dialogue, and I can ask you questions, you can ask me questions, and we can make sure that we're working together to have a wonderful event. Amen. It's quiet in this Presbyterian. Okay, so I know I went through a lot of information. I went through it pretty quickly, but again, you are welcome to email me or call me anytime that you're going through the process of filling out a resource form to get me to walk you through it or answer any questions that you may have while before you fill it out. But does anybody have any questions for me now?
Is there a separate process for events that are planned by our ministry but outside of Harvest?
Yes. So if you want to, anybody that's outside of Harvest, whether you're a ministry or not, you are required to rent the space. unless you get special permission from Bishop to use the space for free. So in order to do that, we do have a separate rental application that details the rental rules and guidelines for people who are outside of the church. It has all the information in there, even for our COVID requirements. And it also has rental rates for all of the spaces that you saw on this resource form, and even a few more, including the gazebo and that kind of thing. So yes, there's absolutely different paperwork.
Thank you.
Sure. And if you know of an organization who's looking for a place and you think that we would be able to accommodate them, by all means, give them my email address and send them to me, and I'll see what we can do to help.
All right, sounds good.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And the primary reason why I had to Shauna, thank you for taking your time. I know you've been busy all day. The fact that you
You're
came
welcome.
in, appreciate it. The primary or come and share this was because our summers got getting ready to be a little busy in terms of some things we're going to be doing just a slight bit different. May the 15th, we're scheduled to have a meeting. I know right now QJ is at school. Like I said, some folks are other places, but you know, the 15th, we had a conversation last week and we decided the 15th, mainly for the young adults in particular, we're going to be having a meeting to kind of sketch out what the rest of the summer is going to look like so that it's clear. And then, you know, some of these things, you know, that Shoshana proposed tonight, you know, in terms of the resource form can be taken care of. And then we can kind of see it's nothing that's outlandish in terms of it's going to be outside of our regular scheduled programming, but it's just the times and different things need to be determined. Plus, we just recently partnered with an organization for a retreat this summer. So we're going to be going away for our retreat for the young adults. So a lot of detail will come in our next major meeting, but I just wanted to give you a heads up now to kind of get a sense of what.
I'm sorry, the retreat you had scheduled in July is no longer on campus?
No, so that's a separate deal. Is not what I'm talking about. So that's still happening.
Oh, okay.
What we have scheduled is a 3-day event, but it's not really, you know, it's not intense per se. But we actually partner with another organization to do a retreat off campus. So
that sounds nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be and yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Out of people to come, I asked Shauna to come and just do this so that we can all get our heads together and start thinking about the year now. Our year is pretty much not as complicated, but I'm already considering what next year could look like. And I want us to start thinking well ahead of the curve so that way we don't miss the opportunity to get a lot of stuff done. So
yes, please, plan ahead. Like I got an email from the leader of the couples ministry asking me to see the calendar because they're trying to get an idea of what our calendars typically look like, because they are this month they are having conversations about what they want to do for 2023. So I was like, praise God, somebody heard my cries because it's so important, because not just to be able to give yourself time, but sometimes there's fundraising involved. Sometimes you're bringing other people, you're bringing guest speakers, you're doing other things, and you have to give them opportunities to be able to prepare to come to your events as well. And you want to give the church time to be able to make room for everything that everybody else wants to be able to do. So giving yourselves proper time to plan is so important. That way you can iron out details and go over logistics and things don't fall through the cracks because you're not stressed out and overwhelmed trying to make them happen. So I encourage everybody to start planning now for what you want to do, especially in the first quarter, which is January through March of 2023, because we want you to be able to be successful and have these events. We really, 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 really do. But we don't want you to wear yourself out. And like he said, you know, it's May and some of us are already feeling the burn. So we don't want that for you. God doesn't want that for you. He doesn't want that for you. So, and we appreciate you, young adults. Just in case nobody said it to you today or this week or this month, we appreciate you so much for how hard you work, for how diligent and committed you are to the ministry. We appreciate you and we love you.
much. All right, so we'll stop right there. I'll stop recording right there. Any questions?